What was Gay Sweatshop? Gay Sweatshop was a theatrical troupe which took gay-themed plays around the country and sometimes across Europe in order to support the gay communities that they visited, and also to develop some of the themes that were to do with gay life. It was mostly to do with gay men, it has to be said. It was chiefly run by men.
The play you were in, what was it about?
It was called Dear Love of Comrades, and it was a play about Edward Carpenter. And I played all the other people. So I was E.M. Forster, I was an anarchist, I was a member of the Independent Labour Party, and I don't know who else I was. So I played all these other sort of, I think that was it. And we rehearsed it at the Oval House and opened there in 1978, 79 probably. And then took it on tour up and down the country with a set. And and I was only in that one play for a variety of reasons.
Why did you leave acting?
Acting left me. There were many different reasons. One of the reasons was I was perfectly capable of being very, very good. I could walk on stage and I could do things. I could have an audience in complete control. I could be absolutely magnificent. I had no idea how it ever got to that point. And I would do it sometimes and think, sorted, go out and do that again tomorrow night. I'm standing there like I'm naked, So part of it was that I just didn't know how to make those things happen. I could do it, but I didn't know how to make them happen. Jeffrey and I had a domestic life, which I rather enjoyed, and which ultimately my being away for long periods was getting in the way of. So that was another reason not to do it. I also fell out with the Sweaties, they were known as the Sweaties, somewhat over, personal relationships, really.
Drew Griffiths.
Drew Griffiths,
one of the big names associated with Gay Sweatshop. What was he like?
I didn't know him for long. He got murdered shortly after I met him. Quite intense. I was aware that there were tensions between him and Noel Grieg. So I'm not really in a position to say. He was gone before I really got involved with them. So I only met him a few times. Seemed, agreeable, pleasant enough.
What do you think was the greatest legacy of Gay Sweatshop?
Greatest legacy of Gay Sweatshop? Ooh.
Was there one?
I'm probably not the right person to ask because I only had one job and did one production with them. So I'm drawing on a very limited body of data there. I know we always used to do the play and then have a discussion afterwards. So I think it was when we went to Stoke-on-Trent and we were doing it at the George Hotel. I remember the pianist tried out the piano and he looked at me and he said, "Do you want your note?" Which was the note I would have for my song. I said, "Yeah, all right." Then he just picked it out the piano and flung it at me because this piano was not good. We would have these discussions afterwards, and I think, there was just one bit of the discussions that sticks with me, which was a woman describing wanting to wear a dress and feeling that 1979 that there was an embargo on lesbians being feminine then, that she's just, I just want to be girly. I want to do this and I don't feel that I can. And there was sort of stuff like that. So I think on a much smaller scale, I think it also had this effect of affirming the communities that it visited. I mean, when we went to Coleraine in Northern Ireland, all right, and the year before, the Reverend Ian Paisley had his famous Save Ulster from Sodomy campaign. That was poor. When we arrived at Coleraine, it was the first day back for the students, and we had this sort of plywood set that we had to move from the van to the place where we were playing. And if you can imagine a very long sort of modern university corridor, quite wide, students either side, chatting to one another, and as we carried the bits of set through, they'd fall silent and then start talking again when we passed. I went to the loo. On the walls was described in graphic detail what some of the students said they planned to do to us if they got hold of us. And it was the only time that I ever performed the play, looking very carefully to see where the doors were in case we got attacked and in case we just had to do a runner. So for the people who were there, our coming and doing that, do you know, I think the university had invited us, and then they withdrew the invitation, and the student union had to invite us to get us to come there. So it was it was contentious. So I do think that Gay Sweatshop did some positive things in the places that it visited. In Birmingham, we did a performance, and after the performance we were all going to go to a gay club called the Grosvenor House Hotel, parked the van, walking along the road, and we walked past 2 cars which they sort of had their lights on the inside. I didn't think much of it. And then we're walking along, and the person stood walking beside me, said, "Just keep walking." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Just keep walking." And we walked, and there was a small army group, whatever, of young men who had come out to do some queer bashing, and they brought their girlfriends brought them along so that they could see just what real men they were, and they set to and attacked us. And you don't know what you're going to do in circumstances like that. And I saw a friend of mine being attacked, and this is not heroism. This is just what you do. And I tried to pick them off him because he was being attacked. So they set on me, and I ended up bent double on the pavement. I just bought a Harris tweed overcoat for £1 in a charity shop, and it was lovely. And I'm bent double, and my blood is starting to spread, and I was thinking, oh, that's going to ruin this coat. And the man who was attacking me, there used to be things called companion sets. What a lovely term. A companion set which would consist of a stand with a brush and a shovel and a poker. And he was using the stand, which had the lump of iron on the end, to whack me over the head with. Fortunately, some parks police were driving by, could see the commotion, got out, sight of 2 uniforms, the fact they weren't real police didn't really matter, and they fled. And the surgeon who sewed my head up said, "If you ever become bald, then you'll have a Mercedes symbol on your head, because I've just embroidered it into you."
Were they caught?
No. Shortly after that, they were doing a piece on queer bashing on Capital Gay, and they'd approached a number of people to talk about it, and the people they'd approached said, "I'm too afraid, I won't." And again, this is not heroism. I just thought, fuck it, I'll talk. And we had this interview, and I described what had happened. So, and then they asked the question at the end, "So, Ray, what would be your advice to other gay men about avoiding queer bashing or whatever?" And you don't know what you're going to say. And I think they thought I was going to say, "Well, you should go on martial arts courses," or something like that. Fortunately, the right thing came to me, and I'm sure it was the right thing, and I think it's the right thing now, which is, I said, the best long-term defense that we can ever have is to stop being them and become Roger, John, Susan, Ray, whoever, become people. Because then it will be harder to hurt us. It will be harder to think those things about us. And that actually is the long-term protection, insofar as I understand it.
Do you have many fond memories of Gay Sweatshop?
Oh, many fond memories of Gay Sweatshop. I only had the one job with them. Gay Sweatshop, yes. In my catalogue of failures, at one point I was a gardener working for the London Borough of Hounslow, sweeping up the leaves at Turnham Green, and somebody passed and saw me and said, "Aren't you Ray Batchelor, the actor?" And I said, "Well, at the moment I'm Ray Batchelor, the gardener." And he said, "Oh, you must." He said, "I'm from Gay Sweatshop." Drew Griffiths.
Yes.
Griffiths. He said, "You should come and interview. You should come and audition for us." So I thought, I'm just being a gardener, I might as well just go and do that. So I did. I remember the audition very well. I had my rehearsed pieces and I had my song. And the guy who was due to play the piano for my song was going on to a party as Dusty Springfield and who had already put the false nails on and couldn't play. So I had to sort of sing the piano parts in between. I got the part. I thoroughly enjoyed being with Gay Sweatshop. We were doing a play called Dear Love of Comrades. It was interesting to me I enjoyed doing the play. That was all interesting. I enjoyed doing the rehearsals. I enjoyed doing the performances. There were bits about the relationships that went on there that I found, I found them shocking, but maybe other people found them shocking in the opposite direction. Because I'd always been this person who I think because I grew up imagining that nobody would ever want me. I know it's sad, isn't it? So I had a sort of policy, which I've tried to adhere to throughout my life, which is that if anybody expresses the slightest interest, I will say yes. In those years, I was doing that. And so one by one, I had intimate encounters with every member of the cast. To the point where they had a meeting in Berlin where the sole item on the agenda is how are we going to get through the rest of the tour with Ray? Okay, this was not a comfortable meeting. It was pretty bad.
You were at the meeting?
I was at the meeting, yes, and I was being discussed because I was the problem. Yes, quite. And
how was the perceived problem resolved?
The perceived problem was I still to this day, I don't understand what their problem was. I don't know. I suppose they just couldn't cope with somebody who did say yes all the time. I stupidly, fondly, I'd imagine that of all places in the world where this ought to be, and you have to remember we're pre-AIDS here, okay? So that isn't even on the horizon. We're just, forgive me, out there fucking because we can, and it was fun. But it was a problem for them, which was a shame. I can remember one used to go regularly to the clap clinic just to sort of check that everything was in order. And I went there and they said, "Would you mind completing this survey that we're doing about..." And one of the questions on the survey, I said, "That's fine." One of the questions was, "How many sexual partners do you think you've had in your life?" And so I just sort of mentally did a sum of how many I thought I had in a week, okay? And including the strangers and the ones that I knew. And then I multiplied that by the number of weeks in a year. And then I multiplied that by the number of years that I thought I'd been doing that. And I arrived at a figure of about 1,500, which was not unusual for a man of my age and generation. Because, the streets were heaving with people who wanted to do stuff. And it was fun, and you just did. And, I'm including in there people I never even spoke to. It's just, yeah. And I'm very, very glad that I have that memory of that. I don't actually do that anymore, you'll be relieved to hear. But I'm very glad that I had that. I'm very, very glad that I have a memory of the kind of life that could be imagined before AIDS happened.